We are just 3 days away from the NFL draft, and there's a lot of chatter, rumors, crazy talk happening right now. But let me just save y'all some time. The Las Vegas Raiders are not going to draft Ashton Jeanty. Welcome back to Bears Yard. This your boy Vipe, and yep, I said it. I'm putting it out there for y'all to know and understand. The Las Vegas Raiders are not drafting Ashton Jeanty, but they want you and me and teams around the league to believe that they're drafting Ashton Jeanty. And I really think they want the Chicago Bears to believe that they are drafting Ashton Jeanty. Now you're probably like, Vipe, why are the Raiders trying to fool teams into believing they are drafting Ashton Jeanty? Isn't it obvious? The Raiders want teams to trade up with them so the Raiders can trade down and acquire additional draft picks. The Raiders know that Ashton Jeanty is a hot commodity, and he has been rumored to them, or mocked to them, more often than not in mock draft. And the noise around the league is that the Raiders are going to draft Ashton Jeanty. Need I remind you all that there was a lot of noise around the league a few months ago that the Raiders were going to land Ben Johnson? And how did that work out for the Raiders? Ooh. Now, I know this is a different situation because the Raiders actually have control over this, because there's a good chance that Ashton Jeanty is not going in the top 5, although there is some chatter now that the Jaguars could consider him. But by and large, Ashton Jeanty is not going before pick 6. But the Raiders have been putting out smoke screens for the last few weeks, trying to get the Bears and other teams to believe that they are going to draft Ashton Jeanty. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. The Raiders have a first-time GM, and they have a bunch of holes on their team. I do not believe a first-time GM is going to draft a running back with pick 6 when you have other holes on the team. Not to mention the fact that he actually came out and said publicly that his son would disown him if he didn't draft Ashton Jeanty. Now, his son is like 10 years old. Could you imagine the ridicule and the backlash that Raider GM John Spytek would get if he drafted Ashton Jeanty, knowing what we know now about how his son said that he better draft Ashton Jeanty? Do you know how much backlash and just ridicule that he would get in league circles for drafting a player just because his son wanted him, his 10-year-old son, mind you, wanted him to do it? Hell no, he's not doing that. He's not putting that franchise's hope in the whims of his 10-year-old kid. It's not happening. But here's another angle that not a lot of people are talking about as it relates to the Raiders potentially drafting a running back. Will they draft a running back? Maybe. But remember, the Raiders' offensive coordinator is Chip Kelly, the same Chip Kelly who was recently the offensive coordinator at The Ohio State. And how many running backs do Ohio State have in this upcoming NFL draft? 2. Quinshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson, and the Raiders do have a high pick in the second round. So I think it's more likely that the Raiders take one of the Ohio State running backs before they take Ashton Jeanty, especially considering how their offensive coordinator is familiar with those running backs. Again, it just doesn't make sense to me for the Raiders to draft a running back. Now, I know this is kind of crazy because I'm a Chicago Bears channel talking about Raiders business, but obviously this has a lot of effect on the Chicago Bears and their pursuit of Ashton Jeanty, because Adam Schefter came out this morning, put out in an article report that the Bears are praying that Jeanty falls to 10. Now, I know that we don't really know Ben Johnson well, but I think I got enough of a hold on Ben Johnson to know that he's not praying for a damn thing. If Ben Johnson wants Ashton Jeanty, I believe he's going to trade up for Ashton Jeanty, if that's what he really wants. I find it kind of hard to believe that the Bears are putting out feelers that they really want Ashton Jeanty like that, because we know how secretive the Bears are, okay? So I find it very hard to believe that the Bears will let the league know that they're praying that Ashton Jeanty falls to 10. The Bears might be putting out smoke screens about their interest in Ashton Jeanty as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Fortunately, we don't have to wait too much longer to figure out what's happening here. But one thing is for sure with me, the Raiders are not drafting Ashton Jeanty. The Bears can be confident in that. Now, the biggest threat to the Bears landing Ashton Jeanty, in my mind, is not the Raiders, but the Dallas Cowboys. Because Jerry Jones is not a rational man. He does not run that team in a rational manner. Jerry Jones runs that team in a way that gets that team the most headlines. And there is nothing more headline grabbing on draft night for the Cowboys than drafting Ashton Jeanty. So I believe there's a possibility that if the Bears stay at 10, the Cowboys might trade up over the Bears to draft Ashton Jeanty. And then obviously that will take the Bears out of the running. That to me is much more likely than the Raiders taking him at 6. But again, there is a possibility that if Ben Johnson really wants Ashton Jeanty on the Bears, then Ben Johnson's going to trade up for Ashton Jeanty. And I know many Bear fans have a problem with this. I wouldn't, because again, there are very few blue chip prospects in this draft. And if you think that Ashton Jeanty is going to be an immediate impact player, home run, no doubt about it, superstar in this league like I do, then yes, running back or no running back, you trade up for that type of player on your team. And given the lack of quarterback talent in this draft, trading up is not going to cost as much as it would in previous years where there are a lot of quarterbacks. So there is a world where the Bears could trade up and not have to lose too much to acquire an Ashton Jeanty. And if Ben Johnson again wants him, I think that's what's going to happen. But let me know, do you feel like the Raiders are really seriously going to consider drafting Ashton Jeanty? Or do you believe that like I do, that it's all a smokescreen and they're lying, trying to bait teams to trade up? Drop a comment. And if you want to know more thoughts and opinions that I have about the Chicago Bears, check out that video right there.